Hello, I am Patty Alexander. I am a member of the Beeville Garden Club and a master gardener, and I'm here to show you today some very easy tips for propagating plants that you already have at your home. So I want to start out with our soil. First of all, you want to get a nice light soil. If the bag is too heavy for you to lift up, it's not good potting soil, it's dirt. So you want to get something that's nice and light, and this has perlite in it. But what I'm actually going to do, and perlite helps it the water drain a little bit better, so the plants are not sitting in water all the time. So what I'm going to do is I actually buy a huge bag of perlite, because in the end it'll save me money, plus it helps me break down this soil for propagating, so again that the roots don't stand in water. Now this is one thing you should use a mask for, because when you pour this in, it's got that fine dust and you sure don't want to be breathing that. So see, there is one good thing you can use, well, besides the other. So I'm going to mix this in. Okay, and that looks good. Very, very nice. So now, for most of my plants, I'll need to put them in some moist soil. Not wet, moist. So I'm going to put this in here. Gonna mix it around. Whoops. If you can pick up the soil and squeeze it and water runs out, it is too wet. So you're always better off starting with less water and then adding it in. Okay. Again, I'm very, very thrifty. I reuse pots all the time. So here is a 6-pack that I'm going to use and fill in with soil. The first plant we're going to propagate today are roses, and really they are so easy to propagate. The older roses are really, really easy, like the old blush, which is where a lot of the roses actually come from. That is the easiest rose to propagate, and it's called a landscape rose because it'll bloom for about 10 months out of the year, but they're not really flowers that you want to cut and put in a vase. They're just beautiful on the bush. And but anyway, we're going to start today with a Duchess de Brabant, which is a light pink rose, extremely fragrant, very, very nice. What you want to do is, I already took some off, you want to cut a thick stem that has nodes in it. Now nodes are where you get segments of a rose, and it's loaded with hormones. Let me see if I can find some here. Like right here, this is a node. So what you would want to do is you'd want to cut right below the node so you can have that. It's loaded with hormones, but of course we're going to slightly cheat, and I have a rooting hormone. So what we're going to do now is, it doesn't need any leaves. Sometimes I leave a little bit on. Okay, now, okay, my rooting hormone. I do this with roses because I think it helps. But anyway, you never want to stick the actual stem into the jar, because if the rose has any disease on it or it's contaminated at all, it'll transfer it into the rooting hormone, and then all of your plants will be ruined when you try to root them. Okay, so now I'm going to wet the tip of this. I am going to load it with rooting hormone. And I have my pot right here, already all set up. I'm going to stick a finger in. You can use a pencil if you want to, because if you just stick the stem in, you might lose some of the rooting hormone. So here we go. We'll set that in. Okay, we're going to do another one. Okay, and I generally really like to do, you can add some more soil, I really like to do 6 in a container. And I usually have very, very good luck. At least 75% of these will root. Okay, I'm going to put this in a place where the soil can stay moist but not wet. If it dries out for a couple of days, that's when you'll lose them. And then I'll put this in probably morning sun, afternoon shade. I'm lucky I have a sprinkler system, so it does all the watering for me. So that's how we're going to do that. And it's going to take probably 4 to 6 weeks before you're going to see new growth. That's how you know that it's rooted. It gets new growth. And look, the wonders of science. This was an old blush that I had planted, well gosh, probably 2 months ago. And you can see I lost some because I let it get too dry. But I'm going to take this out. Well, I think I'm going to. Okay, and see that nice root structure right there? That is just wonderful. And that was just with the rooting hormone. You mainly left it alone. So now I'm going to pot it up. I'm going to take a 1 gallon pot, and again, because I'm very thrifty, I've put a can in the bottom so I don't need to use as much soil. So let's fill that up. Stick it right down in at the same level it was in the pot. Okay, and there we go. So now this will be ready to pot up probably in February, which is a good time to plant roses. So now I can have as many roses as I want, or I can donate them to the garden club. So, okay, now look, this one doesn't have as many roots, but it still will grow. I know because it's got new growth up top, so it's very, very happy. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put some potting soil in here. And this is already moist, so I don't need to water this for a while. I'm going to clear out a spot for it, put it in here, and go put it in the garden. Okay, so here we've got our roses. Let me just put them under the table so we have more room. Okay, what we've got now is this one. This is a Coleus. Everybody has Coleuses, but if you look at it, it's just too tall. It's not pretty anymore. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to take it out of the pot, release this. I'm going to put it in a slightly bigger pot, first of all, because when I'm finished, it's going to be a bigger plant. Let me see. Okay, here we go. And Coleus, as you know, come in all sizes and colors. They're really, really great plants. I never used to have much luck with them, but this year, for some reason, I have so many. Charlie can take a picture over there, and that's where all my varieties are. And what's nice is I did protect them from the cold. This whole area is protected. It's surrounded by buildings. It's got a lot of tree cover, so therefore it's not going to get nearly as cold. And when they say, 32 degrees, that's usually outside of town. If you're in town, it's not nearly that cold. And you'd be surprised, a lot of plants thrive in the colder weather. Not 32, but like the Coleuses, the Begonias, they're going to like it a little bit cooler. Okay, now the same thing. We're going to look for nodes in this Coleus. And we're going to go in and cut. And there's a node right there, loaded with lots of hormones. And we're merely going to take that. And this is easy. We're just going to stick it in the soil. Okay, we're going to take this one. The same thing, we're going to look for a node. And what's going to happen is all of these will grow. And then the stems that we cut it from, they will send up 2 shoots. So this whole thing will be very, very full in about another 2 months, which is really what you want. You don't want a leggy Coleus. You want something that's lower and just full of color. Okay. Okay, so see? Easy, easy, easy. Seriously. And since it's still wintertime, I will put this in a protected area, but this should do fine. You can do this with all your Coleuses. One tip about a Coleus, you really don't want them to bloom. If you ever see flowers on them, tall little spikes, just snip them off, because when you get the flowers, that means it's stopped producing the good-looking leaves, and that's really why you buy a Coleus. Okay, let me see what else I have. Okay. I have now, this is an angel wing begonia, and you can tell because it's shaped like an angel wing. It's very common flower. This is one of the ones I was talking about, likes it more like 55 to 60 degrees. So in the winter, spring and fall, it's going to look good, and it blooms, and these things can get like 2 feet tall. Just beautiful. But again, you don't want it leggy. So this one I had already cut and put down the cut stems in here, and you can see they're growing already. But what I need to do is I need to trim it up, get all the dead stuff out. Okay, because again, we want it to be very full from the bottom up. So this one looks good, but I still want it a little bit lower. So I'm going to take this stem off, and you see it's got good growth in there, even though it's darkly colored. But I'm going to stick this in the soil because this was too tall. We wanted to stay low and grow all together. And this, see, the same thing with this. It's just really too tall. So we're going to take this and we're going to make a hole. You do it with your finger, with scissors, with whatever you've got. If you do it with the stem, the odds are pretty good you'll break it. So, and we'll stick this down in here. And again, this, I'll give it a nice little top dressing. Some new soil on the top. But again, in a couple of months, when it's time for you to put all your flowers back out on your patio and everything, it'll look great. It really will. It will have grown at least a foot, and it'll be nice and full. So that's another way you can propagate and you can add to your collections. Let's see. Okay.